right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Simply Cyber Live. I am your host, Dr. Gerald Auger, and every Thursday we welcome in industry guests, including you. Let me bring on chat. Where are you, chat? There we go. We bring in industry guests to talk about different aspects of the cybersecurity industry, and today we've got a special one. Regular community member of the Simply Cyber community, also a mod, also throwing hundreds, I'm talking hundreds of squad subs in the daily cyber threat briefing this morning and on Tuesday morning. Eric Taylor from Barricade Cyber Solutions. So we're going to bring Eric on today, and what you can expect from the next hour is going to be awesome. You can expect to talk or hear Eric talk about his experiences interfacing directly with ransomware threat actors. Eric runs Barricade Cyber Solutions, which does a whole host of defensive information security practices for businesses. But one key thing that he does is incident response in ransomware incidents. So a ransomware hits whatever company, right? It doesn't matter if it's Joe Belton's ice cream shop or if it's a community bank, or it doesn't matter. Gets hit. They call Eric. Eric comes in, helps them, control the damage done, but then he talks to the threat actors. He negotiates with them, and he's talked to a whole host of different ones. So today we're going to understand what it's like to talk to those threat actors, what are the machinations of it, and what are the things that gets Eric all hot and bothered in a spicy way, not in a sensual way. So we're going to have a good stream. Stay with us. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them in chat. I'm going to let Eric do most of the talking today, but it will be a fun show, and I hope you get some value out of it. So let's just bring Eric right on really quickly. Hey, Eric, how you doing?
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Thanks for having me back, Jerry. Hope you're doing good.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Looking forward to the hot and heavy. So I do want to say a shout out and to all the squad members. I see you all queuing up in chat. Aaron, Casually Joseph from Barricade, Joshua Allen. So, Eric.
Yo.
How many threat actors have you talked to? Roughly, ballpark figure.
I'd probably say over 75 different ones.
Have you ever talked to the same one twice? Like, have you?
Yeah, many times.
So what's that relationship like? That's so weird to me.
So there is a mindset in DFIR where some companies will actually advertise to the threat actors who they are right from the gate and say, hey, this is I'm gonna do it anyway because we are going to get spicy. So there's companies like Monster Cloud and Proven Data that are known for doing this shady ass crap. Where am I allowed to say that, or do I need a buzzer?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I mean,
I won't go too far than that.
Okay.
I'll try to keep it down. But they do some really shady stuff where they will go to that threat actor and be like, hey, my name is Joe from Joe Belton's ice cream shop, since we're going to mention that, and we are a DFIR firm, and what is your best price and things of that nature. But here at Barricade, we definitely do a complete anonymous type of transaction, right? So we act as
I'm trying a new look, Eric. I'm trying a new look. Chat, let me know if you like this look better. We're filling the screen out, but please continue.
So we take a completely autonomous where we completely make up complete profiles. We actually do a little bit of backtracking because or backfilling of that profile online, just because we've had a couple of threat actors before, like Hive and Conti and stuff like that. We'll try to figure out exactly who you are a little bit to prove your identity. They haven't never gone as far as wanting pay stubs or anything like that, but some of the bigger ones will try to, if they get a little suspicious about some of your communication. So we always take it from a personal level. We try to pretend like we are the victim that has been impacted when we're doing those negotiations, and we always talk as we're, the C level of it. So the threat actors never know that it's us unless you follow my Twitter. And we had a real funny one maybe about a month ago now that we kind of closed that case out where the World Cup was getting kicked off or whatever, and the main boss guy that was that pretty much sets the price and does the decryptions and stuff like that, he was too busy watching the effing World Cup to deal with the case at hand.
Wow. Okay.
It was a fun one.
Lane wants to know, like, how are you communicating with them? Did they call you on the phone? Have you ever spoke to them on the phone? Telegram, dark web forums?
It really depends on the threat actor. So the more sophisticated threat actors do have an onion dark website. I would say middle of the road, they do have some telegrams. A lot of the bottom run people, they do have like a Gmail or a Proton Mail or some of the other anonymous type of webmail systems. Um, and once I get done with my case, there was a group not too long ago, earlier this year, called the Stop Ransomware group, and I literally stopped them in their tracks because I flooded AOL's abuse policy. Like they were literally going out and they've been operating like this for over a year, and I'm like, I'm done with you. I'm completely shutting you down.
What are you talking about? What do you mean?
So their primary course of communication was through AOL. So yeah.
It blows my mind that AOL is still around. Like AIM bot,
Mhm.
like in AOL. Were you like, hey, threat actor ASL? Like to date myself here.
Oh my god, dude, that would be funny. That would be funny as all get out. Um, but yeah, most of the time you're communicating with the customer service side of things. It depends on I say organization very loosely, but a lot of times they're ransomware as a service, so it's a third party that's actually penetrated your environment. So the customer service and the management have to deal with the third party people. Do the ransomware service freelancers get the decryption code before, like we've seen with the Conti leaks and things of that nature? So it really depends on the individual threat actor exactly how things play out.
Hmm. That's interesting. So now, from a talking, we're talking with Eric Taylor right now about talking to threat actors in ransomware active incidents. When you're talking to them, have you ever do they ever give up? Like, are they like, oh, this is just like you guys are too difficult a victim to deal with, or are they really really nice and over the top with you, like the way that I've heard it referenced that they are very very kind and very nice?
It really depends on the case by case scenario. Some of them do get downright belligerent, and then I go. I mean, it depends on how important the data really is. Every last one of our engagements, the communication is always part of it. So if it's one of those things that the customer is not really worried about the actually getting a decryptor and never has any intention of ever paying, we're literally just drawing it out as part of our engagement to extend the time from notification so they have a time. So, okay, here's a little DFIR insider. Depending on the type of organization that you have, you could have legal that's involved as you're doing an assessment to figure out the full impact of the data that was impacted, things of that nature. Sometimes we do a proof of concept when we're talking to the threat actor saying, show me what exactly files that you have, things of that nature. And we're doing that threat assessment, say, okay, what do they have? So we're trying to figure out where that is in the network, things of that nature. So sometimes we're trying to extend that conversation to know who we got to notify for potential breach and things of that nature. But yeah, it's all over the place. I think I totally forgot what your original question was. Sorry about that.
No. It was whether or not like the threat actors are really nice or really mean, and
It really depends.
What they do.
It really depends on how salty I get with them. I don't ever get over spicy with them unless it's right toward the end and the customer is not going to pay. And then I just go full spice rage mode on them.
So I was listening to Darknet Diaries, and they did an episode on R Evil. Very interesting episode. And they were talking about ransomware threat actors, and he actually had a recording. And I'm curious if you've seen this or heard this or what stories you might have about it. It was a recording where the threat actor basically called and left a voicemail for, the CEO or whatever, and was like, listen, I've got your data. I'm going to release it. I'm going you're going to go out of business. Like, it's not worth, like, basically trying to like do psychological operations on the CEO to manipulate them and draw fear out to do that. So, what kind of have you seen that? And if so, like, what other techniques have you seen the threat actors do in order to kind of, leverage the situation?
So yeah, a lot of the bigger threat actors when you see like them, the news coming out that they popped, whoever, Sony, Kaseya or whatever, they actually did the, they actually do their homework on who they've actually just impacted the network on. And, they will, if they don't think that they're getting communication, and if it's slow for them, their profit margin, if you will, is down for the month. They will start calling the C level of the organization that was compromised, and they will also start digging through the files if they did data exfiltration of all the competitors. They're like, hey, I just popped the ice cream shop down the street and I got their recipe, $10,000 and it's yours, type of thing, right? So
Yeah.
it's a very it's definitely a tactic they do to try to make money.
Give me 1 second here. I'm sorry. So it looks like chat has broke. But I've pulled up YouTube chat now. So we are good. You won't be able to see the chat on the stream, Eric, but I'll continue to
I'll pull it up myself as well.
Field questions to you. Okay, that's good. I don't know why it broke, but I see you now, chat. Okay, at least on YouTube. There we go. So, all right. Have you noticed, I'm curious, have you noticed, like, with basically crypto's value going down, do the threat actors just adjust the amount of crypto they ask for so that they're still getting the same USD equivalent in their ransoms? Or have you seen ransoms go down because of recession and inflation? Like, I guess that's the question. How has recession and inflation affected threat actor operations?
It's impacted it a lot. So, I mean, they're still going to be very active. They still want the overall money to come into their organization. But definitely the price of the amount of crypto that they want, whatever the currency is ultimately the goal of the price point that they want. So, if their goal is $20,000 for a particular victim, it could have been 0.7, 0.8 of a Bitcoin, but now it's 1.75 or whatever the current price is. And that's another thing that we always have to be curious about, is when crypto is fluctuating so much that we're actually paying the proper amount, so that way they get their full amount. Otherwise, crypto's going up or down or whatever the case is, and you don't pay that proper amount to get your decryptor, you can end up spending 2 or 3 transactions and spending even more money in that transaction fees to get your decryptor than the first time if you're not paying attention.
Oh my God, that sucks. It also makes me think, I had heard that some businesses, this was more around 2020, but some businesses were, okay, so Bitcoin and all crypto went skyrocketing. It went up to like 60, 70,000 a Bitcoin a couple years ago, right? So some businesses I know purchased a ton of Bitcoin because they're like, oh my God, like we're going to, if it's an insurance policy, and if we buy it now, it's going to continue to go up. So then, we won't have to buy the Bitcoin at a higher price in order to pay for a ransom just in case. So they were like basically like holding assets in order as an insurance policy. And now those things have gone way, way down. So it makes me wonder how many businesses are actually taking like revenue losses because of this depreciated asset. And they're not even in the business of like holding currency. You know what I mean? They're not like a financial services company or anything like that. So
not to get into too much secret sauce, if you will, but we were heavily impacted by that as well, because we would have a so much dollar or so much currency or so many dollars of a certain type of currency. When a lot of threat actors were wanting Monero and they were wanting this and they were wanting that, we always try to keep a minimum amount, because it's hard as all get out to do a wire transfer to a private broker to get that stuff on the weekend. It's not going to happen. So
especially if it's like a large amount too, right?
Exactly. So we always had to keep that stuff on hand. So until recently, we would have to keep pumping that money in. But I mean, I know myself and several other large companies. I'll just throw one out there like Coveware, who does a lot of stuff, like multi-million-dollar cryptocurrency transactions per year. They had to do the same thing as well, where they were just pumping in, and I actually found it, and they everybody's kind of adopting this new methodology a little bit. So
I love it. Chat, I got your back here. Look at this, chat. I got you, chat. All right, I'll share my screen with you, chat. I'm here with you. Okay, there we go. So it's a little janky. Eric, but we're gonna make it work.
Okay, adapt and overcome.
That's right, buddy. Chat, you're back. Welcome back to the stream, chat. And you can use your squad emotes. Okay, so check it out. You guys are going to see me scroll on this, though. There was a couple questions. Midori K wanted to know, what sort of qualifications do you need, I guess, to do incident response for ransomware? And I might add, talking to threat actors.
To be honest with you, there's no verification process at all when you're running DFIR. There really isn't. Those who are in the chat, if you ever did a pen test, has anybody ever asked you if you got any certifications or degrees or anything in that? No, there's not. I mean, as part of our sales pitch, when we're talking to new prospects, we tell them we are SANS accredited and we are GIAC certified, which is the certification body for SANS Institute, is the GIAC. So not many other companies have that out there. But some do. But yeah, we try to make sure that they are well armed with the information, because there's probably maybe 5 or 7 good DFIR firms, and then there's me and Casually Joseph was actually talking about this earlier. It's like, but then you got a whole mess of people be like, yeah, I can do that, and it just, I can't tell you how many times. Yeah, Carl. Thanks, Carl. That we'll literally get calls. We've got 2 or 3. Yeah, we got 2 prospects right now that DFR cases went horribly wrong like 2 years ago. They still have encrypted files, and they want to know if we can get the threat actors back to the table to start negotiations.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, in that situation, is there any hope of getting connected to the threat actors?
A good experienced DFIR firm can. It's hard, but you could get them if you know the right channels. You can get them back involved.
Wow, very interesting. Very interesting. Have you had any experience using some of the decryptors? So threat actor sends you a decryptor. I mean, is it just point and click, or walk me through, because I've never really thought about it, but walk me through what the decryptor looks like. So you paid me the ransom. Here's your decryptor. Is it a single file? Is it a collection of files? What's the decryptor look like?
So, oh God, here we go. Hive Ransomware decryptor uses 4 files. They've got 2 keys that are sitting on each drive that are used in unison to help decrypt the files once you've made it, or once you've got it. Theirs is a big, lengthy process. There are some ransomware groups that will use what's called a answer key, a request and answer key. So they'll give you what's called a master decryptor, if you will. It's a program, and you say there's literally 2 buttons. It looks like it's built in Visual Basic, and it probably was, where you click on analyze files. It'll scan your entire folder, and it'll give you a big freaking string. You send that off. They give you the answer file back. You put that in, and then it goes in and searches and unencrypts those files. Some of them are completely automated, like ReEvil and some of the other ones, where they've already got the decryptor up there ready for you. As soon as your transaction is processed through the cryptocurrency, you can download it right now and start your decryption process for the IDs. Because a lot of times you'll have an ID inside of your README file or your encrypted files, things of that nature, and they already have that stuff put together. So it's as much as these are threat actors, they are criminals. They're well-oiled criminal, if you will. So and there's some of them that just don't work either, and that's the other part of being on this thing. You got to be able to make sure that these threat actors are able to decrypt the files, right? So,
well, 2 things. One, do you have to run the decryptor on every single computer? Do you have to touch every computer?
Typically, there are a couple tricks to get around that, but it can be very painful. And it's not all decryptors run at the same speed, where some of the more high name threat actors, Hive, Conti, ReEvil, Lockbit, their decryptors are well-oiled machine. They're they're coded very, very well, and it will just scroll through and just knock it out. And there are a ton of them that are very poorly coded. And that's the other side of it as well. We've actually had, even as of 3 months ago, where the ransomware group will put in a time bomb. Those who've been around for a while, time bomb, or AKA a scheduled service or scheduled task that will launch and re-download the new payload variant in 3 to 6 months, and then reinfect your freaking workstation. So if you're not sandboxing and running analysis on these decryptor files, you're making a huge mistake.
Yeah.
Massive mistake.
Aaron just asked in chat, after your data is decrypted, how do you clean the data to make sure that they can't come back?
That's when you really need to hire a cybersecurity firm, Barricade, to actually go through that process and secure it. So really, once you got your files decrypted, you're rebuilding your network. Once a computer and a network's been popped, you can never trust it. I don't care who the threat actor is. That Windows system is never going to work the same way ever again, the same way once it's decrypted. You would think, oh, well, the file's restored, it should work fine. No, it doesn't. These things will act so wonky, do things completely unexpected. Yeah, you've got to rebuild it. And it's just the things that you got to rebuild it better. If you think of a hurricane, we got to build, not to be tragic, but it's been enough time. But when the dams broke in Louisiana, 8-10 years ago or so,
Katrina,
they came back and they built those dams back better, and they have less chances of flooding and all this other stuff. So when you have damage, you got to repair and come back stronger. Because I will tell you, once you've been compromised, I swear to you, these guys are communicating on the back channels, and they're like, "Hey, we popped ice cream shop 6 months ago, and we got $30,000 out of them. Just letting you know."
I like it. All right, hey, so really quick, it looks like we've got chat back on.
I see that.
So, chat squad. Let me know in chat, if you will. Would you like to keep it this way with me sharing a tiny box with chat so you can do your squad emotes? Or would you prefer we go back to the classic way where you've got chat up here right next to us, but no squad emotes? Let me know in chat while we continue talking with Eric Taylor of Barricade Cyber Solutions about talking to threat actors. Is there ever a language issue, right? Because a lot of these threat actors are operating out of Eastern Europe, and English it may not be their first language. What kind of language challenges have you encountered, or do they have linguists on staff too because they're so good?
Yeah, they do have. There is a language barrier. We have talked to threat actors where it's completely in Russian or German, or in Iran. There's so we'll have to use Google Translate. I ain't gonna lie. I'm like, what in the Sam F is this guy saying? There's a lot of them will have really, really broken English though, but they've piecemealed it enough that you understand what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
And some of them are they have really, really good English. Like, okay, Joe Mama, where exactly are you located at? Because I'm a little curious now.
Yeah, that is interesting. Someone just asked in chat, Jim Lunn asked, is there a potential breaking point on when a company ought to contact Barricade? And I'd love to expand that question a little bit. First, when do companies typically call Barricade? Because you're a sponsor of the Daily Cyber Threat Briefing, and every morning I mention to people how easy it is to get in contact with you and have a call before crap hits the fan. And I always use the fire metaphor. You don't want to find out. You don't want to review and analyze and assess and do price shopping of fire departments when your house is on fire. You want them to come now and make the pain stop. And it's the same thing with businesses and incident response firms. You really should do this in advance, not when you're on fire. But I'm curious. First of all, when do companies typically contact you, A, and then B, do you think it would make any difference if they contacted you at a different period? What would be the differences? So answer the first question first, and then the follow-up, please.
Yeah, it's kind of like what BSEC said, 2 hours into the incident. But typically everybody calls us when it hits the fan.
Okay.
They've got the ransomware note up on their page. They're like, crap, who do we do? What do we do? They're Googling for decryptors. They're Googling this. They're Googling that. And, their world is coming to a crashing end. And they're calling everybody and their brother to try to figure out what in the world they do. It's never a good thing to be in that situation. When should somebody call us? Literally today. We literally introduce a what's called an incident response retainer, and you pretty much bring us on staff, if you will, but you have us on retainer. You have CrowdStrike as part of your solution, and the moment you think something is going wonky in your network, we react. Right? We even set up incident response plans. If for some reason you get a high value threat, like even Casually Joseph, he'd probably laugh at it, but I isolated the crap out of my workstation a couple of days ago because I was unpacking a zip file on my workstation instead of the VM like a moron. And I had the best. Will you please unisolate me? So I was definitely the Carl that morning. That's for sure.
That's too funny. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you're honestly worried about the cybersecurity stance, contact. We have so many things that we can talk to you about, and not everything has to be a dollar amount. It's like, oh well, to talk to us, you must pay $10,000. It's not that. Literally, there's no paywall to schedule a call, right? Yeah. Schedule a call. Tell me your situation. If there's a pre-recommendation I can give you, great. If not, let's have a deeper conversation. Let's make your 2023 better and more secure than this year was.
I love it. Noose, I do see your question. We will get to it. But Jess, as a follow-up, wants to know around the language and stuff. Are certain threat actors, certain countries more difficult to deal with negotiation-wise? And she offers an example, but,
No, I mean, it's typically the language barrier. So, if they're able to... as long as I'm not using Google Translator for everything and trying to really read between the lines, we can muddle through it and be able to make it through. It's normally the Google Translator, and then I've got to type out my stuff and put it into Google Translator to translate it back to their native language, and that's when things get... Because sometimes those... here, like even in the United States, right? We'll use the term "bless your heart." That's a Southern term. That's a very bad thing, right?
Yeah.
So in different countries, you have different dialects. You have different type of sayings and stuff like that. So it doesn't always translate well. So some conversations have gotten a little derailed because Google Translate did not help me out.
So taking a step back, Noose wanted to know, this is pretty unique field from what I understand. I mean, it is and it isn't. I mean, I would say, if just to kind of level set, and then like if you can give us your story on how you got to be where you are today. But I mean, you know what I mean. But just to level set, I want to point out really quickly so everybody understands, like cybersecurity, right? Like let's start at the top, then you drill down. There's offensive and defensive, and then there's like, let's just call it offense and defense, because as far as operations go, there's also like GRC and architecture and all this other stuff. But offense and defense. Then within defense, which is blue, there is security operations where you're watching. There's incident response where you do something when something bad is observed by the people watching. There's digital forensics, which is after everything's said and done, you're doing this data clean thing that Eric mentioned earlier to analyze how bad was it, what is there anything lingering, whatever. Those are the things. And then Eric does probably all three of those, but what we're talking about is right there in the incident response, and then specifically around the threat of ransomware. So pretty far down the tree, if you will, when he says unique field. So I don't think he means cybersecurity in general, but like down this rabbit hole. But all right, so Eric, you didn't wake up, you didn't, come out and the doctor slapped your butt and like at birth, and you were like, digital forensics. Yeah, digital forensics. No, yeah, I mean, obviously, you kind of. So, can you give the nickel tour on how you got to be talking to a threat actor in Eastern Europe?
I mean, it is a very long story, and if I could plug some, our friend Jack Scott, the two cyber chicks, I went through a whole history, kind of how I got here. But the whole go listen to that. Literally, FBI busting through my door, getting when I was a kid, doing hacking and all the stuff. It's a pretty in depth stuff, but
I'm pulling up the podcast right now, so I'll have a link to that in a second.
But it's really it's a love. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to make an impact into businesses, and this is kind of where it took me a while because I really thought I wanted to be a pen tester. I was doing bug bounties, and I was breaking stuff, and I mean I'm pretty decent at it. I'm no Jason Hammocks, I think his last name is.
Jason Haddix. Yeah.
Haddix, yeah. I mean that dude's
he's
him,
very good.
Stoke, Tom Nom Nom, those guys are like, ooh, but I mean, I get by, right? But this is where I wanted to do. I wanted to hunt evil, and this is just where I ended up, and finding, I guess I've always wanted to find those little Easter eggs, even when I was playing games and stuff like that. So it kind of fits into that. It's like, what secret door, little thing could you do to unlock this other thing? And it's kind of the same way as well, where it's like, how did this threat actor pivot? How did they originally get their initial foothold in? And was it via VPN? Because a lot of times firewalls will be the key indicator of how they potentially got in. By hacking insecure SSL VPNs, things of that nature. So it's very, very interesting, looking for that threat intel, looking for those Easter eggs, and essentially just hunting evil.
I like it. And you said something that resonates with me. Really quick, I'm just going to show on the broadcast really quick here. This is the two cyber chicks. The link to Eric's specific talk, this one right here, the URL is longer than the length of text that you can type into a YouTube chat comment, so I can't drop it. But this is it right here. If you want to hear Eric's full story, go check that out. Plus, Erica and Jax are awesome people, and I think they're great. So definitely check out their podcast.
I love me some Jack Scott.
Yeah, I'm actually going to be a guest on their podcast in February of 23. So, yay.
Nice.
Yep. So anyways, I one thing that you said that resonates with me is the interest in the passion to want to continue to know more, right? Like, I feel like there's some people that work in cyber because it's just a job and that's what they do. But a lot of people who work in cyber, it's because they love it and they want more of it and just lean into it. And it sounds like, that's kind of the camp you're in. So I love that.
I mean, if you're just in it for a paycheck, I mean, I've said this before, but this business industry is going to chew you up and spit you out. You'll last 6 months, a year, and you'll be gone because you'll be burned out, and you just don't have that passion or the drive for it. Just please don't do it. Please do yourself, do your family a favor. Don't get into it.
Cyberwar asks, made a good point about using a URL shortener. I'm trying to host and stream, and so it's just, if someone else could grab it and put it in a URL shortener, that would be much appreciated.
I can probably get it for you real quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, no, it's just the link was too long. Aaron Katz had a URL, had a question here. Has anyone, well, actually, really quick, Justin Gold had a pretty straightforward yes or no question. When you're using the Google Translator, do you tell them that so that you're at least qualifying why your responses are broken?
If it gets too hairy, I will.
Okay.
But typically I don't.
Okay. So fun question from Aaron. Has anyone ever, and I'm reading this for the first time right out loud. Has anyone ever scheduled on your website a discovery call that turned into an interview and they got the job? That's kind of funny.
That's a good hacking technique. No, nobody is doing that, and I strongly recommend please don't. Seriously, just send it to info@barricadecyber.com or send it to me on LinkedIn. We'll take a look at it. There, especially right now, the holidays, threat actors definitely start kicking up, and we got a ton of stuff going on. So please be respectful.
Yeah, a
So
lot of people chiming in on the obsession with cybersecurity. It is kind of funny if you're a male in cybersecurity, how many males have beards. I didn't grow a beard because I'm like, oh, it's like a infosec starter kit. Or, you know what I mean? Like, oh,
exactly.
better get a beard. But like a lot of people in cyber have beards.
I think it's because we work so long hours. We're just like, this is just one thing I'm just going to let go. I'm just going to make sure it doesn't look like I'm smuggling Chewbacca on my face and
Yeah.
call it a day.
Yeah, that probably is it. Yeah. It's been long. It's been long. So I know you just mentioned the holidays. Do threat actors have seasons? I mean, is there, are you like, oh geez, spring, like, whatever, like spring's right around the corner. It's going to be wicked busy there. So like, don't schedule family vacations or something. Like, is there seasonal peaks and valleys with threat actors?
Any sort of U.S. based holiday is going to be busy.
Okay.
Like Christmas, where I'm gearing up. I'm actually me and Casual Joseph was actually talking about a couple tools today. Like we're trying to advance and like get some of those early detectors, and we're talking about doing some additional canary files and things of that nature. Christmas is going to be crazy because you got to think about it. Christmas is on Sunday. People are going to start winding down the middle of next week, and they're going to be not paying as much attention. They'll be like, whatever, my computer's running a little slow, just whatever. I'll just use my phone to shop on Amazon for that last Christmas. But yeah, the Christmas holiday, I will probably be just like last year, getting calls on Christmas Day.
That stinks, man.
Because the owner wanted to check in and like check their online store, because they have the SAP accounting package, and they want to see what kind of sales came in during the holidays and how their holiday numbers are running, because they'll be running specials. They're like, oh crap, we see this, and we literally start getting calls. So
yeah, not good. But I mean, if you can predict it, then go on. What about we see in the news that basically Russia, Ukraine, a lot of threat actor groups coming out of those areas, and there's a war going on over there. So did you notice the kind of the Russian-Ukrainian conflict resulted in less activity from threat actors because their focus was elsewhere? Or like how did that impact what you were seeing from a threat actor activity perspective?
Yeah, we definitely seen massive drops in ransomware activities this year or what we believe is the war between Russia and Ukraine. And there was some smarter people than me that will say these threat actors are part of this country, and I'm like, how exactly are you determining this? I think it's all pure speculation until at least this year, when Ukraine and France are Ukraine and Russia are going to war. So I'm like, okay, these threat actors are clearly part of that ecosystem over there in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, I will tend to believe that now. But until this, I believed it was all purely speculation. But the one thing that really still strikes me, Lockbit, ReEvil, some of these ransomware as a service, it's they still have operators all over the place, and for them to still be down even with global workers working for them, it's just like interesting to see all that.
Yeah, it is interesting. So I do want to talk about Lockbit specifically, but since we're talking about international and stuff like that, you saw it go down with the Russia-Ukrainian conflict and those actors there, but we're seeing the emergence of threat actor groups, serious to be considered serious, out of Cuba and out of Brazil. So, is that just, whenever there's a void, something's going to fill it? Or are you seeing the access to ransomware as a business model, as something that's getting more accessible to people? Because ransomware's been around for legitimately around for 5 solid years. I know there was things before 2017, but WannaCry, in my opinion, WannaCry kind of blew it up as okay, this is a real thing, So I guess, what are your thoughts around how, these other countries that weren't necessarily thought of as ransomware operators are coming online.
Yeah, I think it really just people have they're in a bad spot. I mean, take a look at Lapsus, take a look at even the creator of the original ReEvil ransomware payload was a kid that was bored and wanted to see what they could do. Lapsus is the same way. They get a bunch of kids who are bored and want to see what they can do, and I think it does become. You always see. I guess the best way to pose it or do it is like what we call like a one-man band, IT startup firm, if you will. Not this is not to pick on any of those folks if they're in the chat or listening, but you all got to start somewhere. But you go out, you help a couple businesses, and you start getting a reputation, and it starts growing and growing and growing and growing and growing until it becomes more about a viable business where you're helping multiple families that are businesses that are designed for that, right? And it's an evolutionary process, to sum it up, but hopefully that answered your question.
Yeah, it was good. Fun question. Haircut Fish wants to know what your favorite APT name is.
So there's one that we actually got turned on to not long ago, which is Clockwork Spider.
Clockwork.
Yeah, I hate spiders, but the one that's actually called Clockwork Spider. It's an old malware that was attacking the banking industry, and they actually had two Trojans, one for Windows and one for Mac OS.
Okay.
And they were back in 2014, 2017. And they're believed to have come out of Eastern Europe and Russia, but we got some samples of stuff that earlier because it looks like they're getting respun up, so we're getting some TTPs. So shameless plug, go subscribe to Barricade Cyber because YouTube channel, because I'm pretty sure we're going to be doing some DFIR work on that stuff.
I like it. I've always liked, as much as they're deplorable, I've always liked Lazarus Group. Like I just think the name kind of sounds cool. Like I think they're horrible people, but there's always been that. I don't mind the so I'm always constantly being mindful of being politically correct, right? I try to be inclusive. I try not to be whatever, and FireEye's naming convention. This is a slight side tangent, but FireEye's naming convention, it flirts with like inappropriate, right? Like basically all the Russian ones are bears, all the Chinese ones are pandas, right? All the Iranian ones are snakes, and
yeah, it looks like they're going to a furry party. Yeah, I've thought the same thing a couple times myself.
Yeah, it's like, is that okay? And like one of them's kittens. I can't remember, like Fuzzy Kitten, Charming Kitten. I forget what group that is. Maybe that's Iran. Maybe that's Iran because Muddy Water is Iranian, and they're like a static kitten, I think. But anyways, Pakistan might be snakes. It's just, I don't know. I don't know if it's inappropriate or not. I guess it would be for the people who live in those countries or people who identify as Pakistani or Iranian or whatever to be like, that's offensive. But that was always interesting to me. So another question that Aaron wanted to ask, he just asked it differently. What are your thoughts about how threat actors call their victims clients?
Oh my God.
I mean, how do the victims feel about that? Do they just pay it no mind because they're like... Well,
unfortunately, depending on the threat actor or depending on the client, sometimes they are looped in on the conversations that are going back and forth between the threat actor and myself or somebody on the team. But most of the time they don't see that, right? It's, but the whole fact that they call, I'm doing my best not to curse. I'm doing my best, but it literally, let me come over to your house and steal all of your stuff, put it in the U-Haul, and then I'm going to sell it back to you, and I'm going to call this a business transaction. It's not.
It definitely
I
isn't
don't.
fair. It's deplorable.
Oh yeah, it's next level WTF. Um, you committed a criminal act and you're calling them a client. It's not. It's not good. So I would literally go off on people. Oh, and one other thing that really drives me nuts is when they call me their friend. It's
Hmm.
okay, my friend. Shut the F up. I'm
No,
not
yeah,
your friend.
we're not friends today. So what?
Yeah.
Let me ask you, what kind of recommendations, or what would you like to see happen if you could like wave a wand or whatever to help? Obviously you're in like kind of like there's like a perverse incentive that the more threat actor stuff happens, the better Barricade Cyber Solutions is. So, put that aside for a second. I'm sure if all the cyber criminals went away, you'd find something else that would make you happy to do for work. So it wouldn't you'd be able to feed your family. But if you could do something or pass legislation or invent some type of technology or whatever, what would you do to help combat ransomware?
I would make it a requirement for any business to operate to go through CIS controls.
Mm-hmm.
And when you renew your licenses, you renew your tax certificates, things of that nature, you must show certification that you have renewed and gone through and done what you need to. I
So
think CIS version 8 controls is an easy framework to adopt. May need some guidance, may need a barricade, may need, another cybersecurity firm to help you get through it. But trust me, when you're looking at $80,000-$90,000 between, getting us involved, paying the ransomware, your downtime, rebuilding your network, all this stuff, implementing CIS controls is like a fraction of that cost. It really, really is.
yeah, it really is. But something, because I'm like obviously all up in GRC space. One thing that I do see people do, and it's a very nuanced wrinkle, but it's a wrinkle big enough that you can hide under the wrinkle, if you get my metaphor. So like CIS controls, right? There's 18 of them.
Yep.
You implement them, and you're like, look, I got all these controls, and someone comes in and audits you. They're like, show me your asset inventory, right? Show me your assets. And you're like, here you go. And it's like, okay, this looks like an asset inventory. Everything's good. But there's things missing from the asset inventory. There's things that haven't been updated, like shadow IT. Like the reality of your control implement, like the controls aren't comprehensively implemented to provide comprehensive coverage. So, and this is a GRC guy saying this, right? So like you have to be thorough with your controls, because I'm telling you, there's so many situations where like you have controls, you've got a great program, but it's only covering 80% of your business. And yeah, okay, like, you're less likely to suffer. You have less likelihood of suffering an incident, and the impact will be less, so the risk is lower. That's fine, but you're still, you're misrepresenting the security posture of the organization to management, to external parties, to insurance providers, because you're declaring that you have these controls in place, but you don't have them implemented throughout the organization. And I see that everywhere. I mean, it's very difficult to implement it comprehensively, but we all do it. We all lie to ourselves. We all lie to each other that, the controls are implemented. So,
Yeah, exactly what Jess Bishop said, and no self-attestation. That is the best thing. Oh, when we seen that whole train wreck, we're going to get on a CMMC soapbox now, but the one thing I always point to is everybody, NIST 800-171 was complete self-attestation. And, when they wanted to implement CMMC, which is literally 13 more controls, very easy hurdle for them to do if they were actually properly certified. And they're like, oh, this is going to take too much. This is going to take too much. We can't do it. And they dumbed down the government security.
Yeah.
Oh, Sorry, I'll
That's
break
good.
a keyboard before I curse for you.
Thank you. Yeah, Guy Thompson says when we do assessments and ask do you have and utilize an EDR solution, we have to follow up with it. And is it deployed on your endpoints? This is another great example, Guy Thompson. Thanks for bringing it up. And I'll offer another one just to kind of illustrate the point simply. Do you have a firewall in place? Yes, absolutely. We bought a wicked expensive next-gen firewall last year. It's right there in the rack and stacked. Okay, check. On to the next thing. No one's asking, like, how is the ACLs configured? Have you tried to pass traffic through that shouldn't go through and verify that the controls work? No, because the audit control asked if we had a firewall in place. Now, I know I'm being slightly simplified, but same with the EDR. Yeah, we pay for, whatever, Sentinel-1, right? Here it is. We pay for it. Next question. But do you have it installed on all agents, including endpoints in your environment that can't take a Sentinel-1, like webcams, right? I mean, those are endpoints. They can be infected, and you obviously don't have Sentinel-1 on it. So let's be clear about what our control implementation is.
Yeah, I mean, there is a concept that people really need to adopt, and if you go through CIS, you'll understand this. But OT and IT and IoT all need to be all segmented networks: operational technology, information technology, and the Internet of Things. OT, IT, IoT, at the minimum, needs to be your 3 VLANs. And I mean, your IoT, is your management interface and stuff like that too. Where, let me correct that. 4 VLANs. Your management interface needs to be on its own VLAN. I almost botched that one up. So you got OT, IT, IoT, management. That needs to be at least your minimum.
Guest. If you're gonna
if you're gonna do that, then that needs to be its own. But you get the idea. When you start implementing those 4 VLANs and starting to do that network segmentation across it, then you start getting, okay, we need to do more network segmentation and stuff like that. So
yeah, absolutely. And another, like, I know we're kind of veering away from incident response, but the conversation is good and chat doesn't seem to mind. Good luck, haircut fish. Not good luck. Best wishes. There's no need for good luck. You're gonna crush it. There's no need for luck. We're having a, Chad, if you guys want us to, go back to zeroing in on incident response, by all means we will. But I am enjoying this. Another area that I see, actually, okay, I'll bring it back to incident response. But another area I see issue with is when you businesses acquire other businesses and you connect their networks together. Have you ever, like, I've seen it firsthand, issues happen from connecting those 2 networks together. Have you ever been called in on an IR event where they basically merged 2 networks and one of them was infected and it jumped?
Yeah, I'm thinking. Yes, I mean, I have. I'm just trying to figure out what I can. Okay, I know what I can say now. So yeah, we had where there was 6 locations. The owner went and bought 3 companies, and they were all what's called hub and spoke VPN together. So it was just one big massive, hub and spoke network. So company B could see everything at all the companies, right? And
it's a panopticon, right?
Yep. So they just run the threat actor literally got into one network, ran a full RFC spectrum scan on all 192.168.0./24, I think it was, or whatever, but they did the full RFC 138 scan, and they found all of their subnets and everything for all these other sites and took them all down. That's something we don't see a lot of threat actors do, but this particular threat actor that I'm talking about did, and it was a mess. So we actually had to break it and rebuild all that stuff. So that was a fun one, because we were at one location that was pretty close to us geographically, and I'm starting to see communications from all these other locations, and I'm like, what the F is this?
Mm-hmm.
And because we were brought in, we're trying to, we don't get a whole lot of intel, we don't get a lot of network diagrams, so we just look at what's in front of us in that particular subnet, try to see where the key points of compromise were, and then try to dive backwards in time, right? So we're
Hmm.
literally, rolling the wheels back, if you will. And that's when we started uncovering and unraveling all this stuff and starting to see all this other traffic. And wow, a freaking four-day investigation literally turned into almost a month and a half because we had to pull forensics from all 6 different companies and
Hmm.
parse it all. It was a nightmare.
Oh my God, that sounds awful. I mean, it sounds like good work, but also
Oh,
awful. Aaron KG wanted to know how much an average incident response cost after a ransom typically. Like what? And I don't think he means like Barricade Cyber's bill rate. I think he's
yeah.
trying to gauge how bad it is for business.
I
Again,
mean,
probably should call you in advance, but
yeah. I mean, just from, I would say some of the lower end tasks I think we've had right around $25,000 by the time you factor in the ransomware payment, and they had on-site IT people that were going to rebuild the network. So I don't know what their true cost is for those particular cases. And
mhm.
we've seen cases that were well over $2 million.
Oh my God, that just makes. I mean, I know if you're like whatever $1 billion company, $2 million is fine, but I equate it to like my home. Getting a $2 million ransom on my home and being like, oh, like that's not gonna be good. Let me ask you. We're kind of running out of time here, but like when you go on
Dude, I can
site,
go for the next 3 hours if you want. Let's rock it.
well, I've got to give a talk later tonight
I
to
know this be a hard time.
people in California. So I know other organizations do this, but like when you show up, I mean, what's the first thing you're doing? I mean, are you putting like Sysmon on everything, or are you asking for a debrief? Like, what are you doing when you walk in?
Yeah, so the first thing is we're asking a debrief. What do they perceive actually happened? And then I'm starting to ask those networking devices, like what servers you have, what workstations you have, what switches you have, um, and your firewall, and how are we going to get access to these devices so we can start pulling the logs? Because literally, a lot of these devices will only capture logs for so long, and
Hmm.
then so the firewalls are especially that most of them don't carry logs more than a day,
Hmm.
right? So we don't want to wait around too long to get those firewall logs. A lot of workstations don't have a lot of logs either, and so it's crucial to get that telemetry data, forensic data off of those devices as quickly as possible. So we,
Well,
we try to find out that.
it almost makes you wonder, and this might be a really simple-minded observation, but like, has ransomware made your like if the attack is ransomware, does that make your job easier? Because I feel like ransomware, like you can like not always, but you can attribute it so you know what to look for. The IOCs are well known; they announce who they are. If it was just like espionage, you're kind of looking for a needle in a stack of needles. With ransomware, I feel like it would be easier from a from an incident response perspective. But
Mhm.
can you comment on that?
Yeah, a little bit. And Lane says you can just leave. Everybody will just ask me the questions, and we'll just end at some point in time.
Oh,
but
I mean, I'm fine. I'm fine doing that too.
but the yeah, a lot of ransomware do have their TTPs. They um, will just say Lockbit. They are known for RDP. They're known for SSL, VPN, firewall exploits, things of that nature. So they have a pretty standard TTP of what they're going to go through. So we try to at least be able to get that type of information. So identifying the threat actor as fast as possible is always good. Joe Belton's ice cream shop. We went back and forth and just we had new threat actor, and we literally named them random guys. Referring back to the World Cup because that's who they were. They were just a bunch of random guys just trying to make money.
I love it. I'll look for that on MITRE ATT&CK's framework.
Yeah, let's see if we get submitted.
Well, you need to make a logo, right? That's really the trick
Hey,
here.
I've heard that you got an emote coming up, possible. So maybe it's a random guy's emote.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That is true. We did unlock a new emote today. The Hacker Man is in chat. Oh, wait. Did I add Hacker Man? I think I did. Where is it? Yeah, there he is right there. Hold on. No, that's Cyber Snake Eyes. I did not. Whoops. All right, hey, I'm going to add HackerMan right now. I thought I did it earlier, but apparently I did not. I didn't hit save on it. So I'm going to do that right now and see if we can update this live on chat. Live on stream. But let me see what other questions are here. News had one that I thought was interesting. He said, or she, whomever, we talked about what gets under your skin, Eric. So, like, we know what bothers you. What's your favorite part about doing IR? It's a great question, considering it's a high-stress job.
Being able to bring them back from the edge, and I think I've talked about this numerous times, but just for sake of argument, people feel personally attacked when they've been hit with a ransomware. We've had situations where a client has started having heart palpitations. They started to feel like they're going to have a stroke because of this stuff. It's, you got to be a therapist a little bit to go through some of this stuff. By no means am I claiming I'm a medical doctor or a therapist. Please don't assume that. But it's, going through that is definitely, a little rewarding to when you're talking to them 6 months and a year later, whether they stick with us, as an MSSP afterwards or not, I still try to follow up with them like, hey, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Things of that nature. And they are a much better spot. They feel better about their cybersecurity stance and all that. So it's good knowing that hopefully that they learned something from this. It was an expensive thing. They come through it and they're better off for it. That really does feel good. That you could be at least some part of that driving force to help them get there.
I love that. Yeah. So it's like, obviously it's a job and you're helping them and everything like that. But at the end of the day, it's like you're doing something kind of righteous by helping an entity that basically can't help itself, right? I mean, that's why they're calling you. They don't have the ability to properly help themselves. I love that. I do love that. I do, it's one reason I love cybersecurity too. I mean, it's very, very nuanced. It's very, very cool. It never gets boring, but it's also nice to protect people. And, you occasionally get the call of I don't know if you get these calls, but you get the call, base case dropping subs. Thanks, base. And everybody get num on 5 squads here. You get the call from someone who's like, hey, like my aunt just called me and she got like basically fished for like eBay gift cards or something or Amazon gift cards. And you're just like, oh my God, you feel terrible, right? That these people are getting taken advantage of. So.
Yeah, we do see that. I mean, we get calls all the time from, I would say general consumers, and they can't afford us by any means. So we at least sit on the line with them for like 10, 15 minutes and, kind of talk to them about their next steps and stuff like that and try to help them go potential, what steps they need to do before trying to talk to the FBI and stuff like that. Because a lot of these cases they've had bank transactions and other fraud that it's right up their wheelhouse. So if, there's a couple of things to do before starting to get those folks engaged. And seeing if they will even engage into your case as well.
That's interesting. What about how do the insurance companies get involved? And I mean, have you had to stop work on a job because the insurance company's like, nope, like we'll be using our own. Oh, there's HackerMan. Nice.
Yeah, we do see that there are insurance companies that only allow what's called panel, or companies who are on their panel, which is an approved list of people. Some insurance companies will allow their panel and or their third party company to go through it. Some of them just allow third parties. It really depends on your cybersecurity policy. So here's another tip for you. If you have a cybersecurity policy and you don't know who to talk to, literally I tell everybody this: schedule a call, get your policy. We will find who's on your panel, and we'll help you get an IR plan set up with that company. There's something we extend all the time. It's like, we literally have that IR retainer I spoke about before. But if they don't know who's on panel, who they can call when it hits a fan, if I can at least broker that conversation for these folks, so that when it does hit the fan, it may not be Barricade, it may be a Kroll, it may be a Mandiant, it may be, Joe Bolton's ice cream shop. I don't know, but at least they know they don't have to search.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that's really that's part of the value, and it's just too bad that people and it's no fault of their own. It's human nature, but people don't really appreciate what you're doing, or like when I say it on the morning every morning, like we sharing your calendar isn't something we talked about. It's just something I started doing on the channel because I want people to understand how easy it is, and B, like what the actual value is. Again, that's why most people don't call you until they're staring at the ransom note trying to figure out what to do next. It's like anything else, right? It's not important enough until it becomes urgent.
Yeah, it's not good to be calling the fire department when you start to see a fire in your house. That's not the time to be making a plan.
Yeah.
Right. Casual Joseph said it. I wasn't going to mention it, but since he put it out there, I will. We've had, companies, a small company that's part of a bigger conglomerate of companies, that bigger company from Japan, China, Germany, whatever, will be like, yeah, no, we've got our own people and you can kick rocks. And doing that due diligence ahead of time is definitely good. So, or, we are the second tier DFIR firm in a case where the insurance company has their DFIR folks. The company is paying for us to be it because they're already messing things up. There's so many different ways that can handle this thing. When a business just wants to get back up and running, they're going to spend whatever money it needs to be done. So
yeah, that's another truth in our industry is the checkbook is wide open, either during an incident or more often right after the incident, where they buy the firewall and they feel more feel safer, but then they don't configure it correctly.
It's either that or they just don't have. They're like, we just can't afford this, and I'm like, so what exactly are you going to do?
Yeah.
And they're like, we're just going to shut our doors. I'm like, you're literally putting 10, 15, 20 people in your company out of a job tomorrow. That's
messed up.
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks. The threat actor hit them, right? So like you can't blame the company, right? You can't be like, oh, you jerk, you terrible person, by like firing your whole staff and closing your business down, because it's the threat actor that initiated them having to make that painful, difficult decision. Unless you're a sociopath, no one likes to fire people. No one likes to take someone's income away. So
yeah, I mean, there is a little bit of I don't want to throw shade, but if there's been projects that you've been putting off because of budget, it's like, well, this new security feature we really should have implement with that security feature, that new software potentially help stop some of this stuff and protect your business. So
well, I mean,
it's all conversations to have too, right? So
well, and that's part of our business. I mean, that's part of our cybersecurity industry challenge, is being able to convey value and get budget when, if you do nothing the next day, it doesn't, like, hey, nothing happened today. So like, we didn't really need to spend that money. Like, I chose not to spend the money, and guess what? Today came and went and nothing bad happened. So I made a smart decision. But the problem is it's so short-sighted because, as we see, when something bad does happen, they end up spending much, much more money than they would have if they had spent it up front, which to me is always like laughable. It always cracks me up, like in a very morbid way. It always cracks me up that you can't get, whatever, $1,800 for something, right? But then after an incident happens where that $1,800 may have prevented that from happening, they'll spend $25,000. Like, and it's like, you realize, like happily spend $25,000. Like where do I sign? And it's like, and you never can't be like, dude, like, if I told you 1,800, like, you can't play the I told you so, because they're already upset. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I mean, to pick your geographical location that you currently live in, but you have flood insurance, you have earthquake insurance, you have um, um, hurricane insurance, things of that nature. You buy those things for the what if. What if a hurricane comes through? What if an earthquake comes through? We're here in the Low Country, so every year we make sure we have our canned foods, we have bottles of jugs of water. We go
Hmm.
through our preparedness. Now that, I mean, you've been here for a while, so you remember the we don't normally get snow down here, but it was like 5 or 6 years ago that we
Yeah.
had that big ice storm and everything,
Yeah,
and power.
that was like when like Washington D.C. had like snowpocalypse. It was that same time frame. Yeah, it was right around
Yeah,
the
none of us
holidays.
were. Yeah, none of us were prepared for that stuff, and we were out of power for weeks. But now we know about it, so we're preparing for that stuff. So businesses got to do the same thing as well. You got to prepare your business for the what ifs, and trust me, I will happily sit on a call with you for 30 minutes to an hour, several hours, like we're doing right now, and I will just spitball ideas at you all day long. If it makes you a stronger business tomorrow, let's talk.
Yeah,
Because
and
this is what I do.
that's a good opportunity to point out too that tabletop exercises aren't
Exactly.
just for mature information security programs. Any business should be doing them, and I point out doing them correctly because I've seen tabletop exercises. But by the way, a tabletop exercise is basically sitting around and saying, okay, you come into work and there's a ransomware node on everybody's computer. What do you do? Right? Like what do you do? And then the whoever like the dungeon master is that's driving the tabletop exercise begins to throw injections. Like an injection would be, for example, like they're like, oh well, first we would call Barricade Cyber, and then they would come in, and then we'd start getting our backups spun up so we could restore from backups. And then you're like, all right, well you discover that your backups are also encrypted, and oh by the way, the threat actor just posted 10 records to Pastebin, and called the local media. So
Hmm.
like now what do you do? Like you kind of introduce these kind of variables.
Yep.
Um, that's how you do it correctly. I've seen him done poorly where it's like, all right, you get ransomware, and then like the head IT guy's like, we restore from backups. Like this is the dumbest exercise ever, and you're like, oh my god, like you're terrible. You're terrible.
Hmm.
Like you're setting the tone for everybody that this is a waste of time. So like you've already conditioned everybody to be disengaged. Thank you very much,
Yeah,
sir.
that's where you just put it on its head. So we'll take ransomware off the table because a lot of people will, they'll use the ransomware as the de facto for the tabletops, right? And
Hmm.
definitely get out of that. So if you're a small company, most small companies have QuickBooks, and most of the time it's on one workstation, and most of the time it's not it's not backed up very well either. So
Hmm.
that's one scenario. I was like, what if your accounting PC, which sometimes is your front desk receptionist, because you want her putting in your invoice, or I shouldn't say she, but you want that person putting in, all these invoices in between, the 4 or 5 calls you get per month or whatever, trying to be multitasking, but the SSD drive goes out in it. What do you do? Oh, well, we restore for backup. Okay. So when's the last time you tested your backup? Oh, never. Okay, let's test that. How long did it take? Well, wow, that took 4 days just to download that.
Hmm.
So how much was your real downtime by the time you calculated, your revenue that you weren't able to input into your QuickBooks, delays in getting billing, your employees downtime, all these things need to start factoring in. You can see how these dominoes just outside of ransomware, take a power scenario, right? Like we just talked about, with the ice storm from a while back, where you're out of power for say you're going to be out of power for 2 weeks. You have a gas powered big commercial generator out there that's going to last you for 4 days. How do you start siphoning power to make sure? At what point do you start turning off critical servers? What's those step down processes, things of that nature, right? There's so many different tabletops that you can do, and that's part of disaster recovery and incident response. You have a disaster. You're recovering from it. You're responding to it. It all ties in.
Yeah, and I'd also point out one other thing, and then Carrie had a question that I saw, and we'll ask that, and then we'll have to boogie. Another, like Aaron made the comment that I should make a course on how to do tabletop exercises. Like, it probably is a valid idea. Another thing, if you're going to do tabletop exercises, that you should definitely do, and I steal this from Black Hills Information Security Backdoors and Breaches, but it's such a good injection. Okay, so like you just said, like your hard drive goes in your QuickBooks computer. What do you do? Well, we're going to restore from backups. Okay, who's going to restore it? Well, Eric is, or Justin Gold is. He's the IT guy here. He's the only IT guy here. Okay, well, guess what? Justin Gold just got called in to talk to the executive. So Justin Gold is in Vegas. Like, Justin Gold's not here anymore.
He's in the bed with the flu.
Yeah, like what?
Like, he can't barely walk or concentrate.
Yeah, or
Now
Justin's on a flight and we can't reach him. Like, whatever it is, I don't care. But have anybody else in this organization tell me how to restore from backup. I don't care who it is. And you can go pull documentation if you want, if you got to document it, which you don't, obviously. So, like, that's a really great injection. And I find that actually is very useful for illuminating to people that they are one deep in some areas that are pretty critical. So, Carrie, yeah, I don't know if you have any thoughts about that particular part of tabletop exercises.
No, that's good. By all means. It's really, really good wrap up. I like that.
Yeah, so Carrie just asked, he asked about a specific, InfoSec Live has a specific differ course, and he wanted to know if that would be a good idea for him to take. But, I assume you don't know anything about that course, so you can't really evaluate it. But let me ask you a bigger question that could help Carrie here. What type of resources around differ are out there that you would recommend somebody check out if they wanted to learn more about basic differ, introduction to differ? Digital Forensics Incident Response, by the way, is the acronym I'm using.
SANS Institute has a YouTube channel. Definitely check that out. 13 Cube has one. Like I said, we're going to be doing some of our own coming up in January and into February. Nice. So we're going to be putting just like Clockworks Spider that I mentioned. We're going to do a little bit of a dive on that. How do you find these threats and stuff like that. So there's a lot of tools that are out there. A lot of them suck, but it's just got to figure out what tools are good for you. I think Casually Joseph reminded me, or put it in the chat. I think actually he was talking about it the other day, where Hack the Box has a differ as well too.
Yeah, Haiku Pro has a forensics range. I know they're going to be adding more. Hack the Box. I don't know what Try Hack Me is doing. I know that they've started to have some defensive ones, but I don't know if it's more SOC analyst type stuff. Kimberly is sharing that Katie Nichols.
Yes, Katie Nichols. Follow. Oh my gosh, that woman is gold. Follow her. Suck in anything she's willing to give out. It's no, that sounded a little dirty. Sorry, don't.
Yeah,
do
that did. I was actually gonna.
But yeah, consume all the knowledge she's willing to give. How about that?
So she's got.
She is gold.
She is gold. I recall her. Hey, I'm gonna drop this in chat. So she's a couple things like Sans page and all that, but she's got a Medium blog post that looks like she posts a couple times a year. Actually, this kind of looks out of date, but you can start here and learn more about her. It's pretty good. I also will recommend Carrie. Here. There we go. This is her blog, Katie Nichols.
Yeah, go look her on LinkedIn. LinkedIn or Twitter. She's way more active on that.
Yeah, I can't remember. Like, she did something not too long ago that like cued me into her, and I was like, oh man, that's cool. Look at this, Carrie. So FAQs on getting started in cyber threat intel, self-study plan. So these are all accessible to you. This looks really good. I also want to point out, this is a bit way more advanced, but I love it. Oh my God. It's, I think it's, this is a YouTube. Oh, what? No, that's not right. Jesus.
Now
Hold
we're
on.
gonna go full pew pew.
I know. Hold on. And this does fall under differ and stuff. Dr. Josh Stroshine. So Josh got his PhD from Dakota State University. He went. He and I were in the same cohort, so like I know Josh very well. I think he's been on the channel a couple times. Great guy. He actually he works at Google now, but he's one of the best instructors I've ever seen. Like so good that I didn't have to take. I dropped a link in chat. I didn't have to take a course. So I took Malware Analysis 748 at Dakota State University. Josh was teaching it. He and I were still in the PhD program. In the PhD, you have to take 848. The 748 is a grad level course. But I like how he teaches so much that I TA'd for him just so I could be in his class and you know, like listen to him talk about malware analysis. It was really cool. But anyways, this channel, he does great work. He does live analysis like on stream, so he'll like pull something apart. You can see like unraveling a .NET form book dropper, installing, getting a Remnux box built up, how to use Burp's target tool. I guess I don't know. That's not really. That seems more offensive, but he's a defensive guy.
Burp is definitely in the pen testing side.
Yeah. So, anyways, go check him out. I can't endorse Josh enough. He's a really great instructor. Explains things at the right level, gets into the right detail. Everything about it is good. All right, Eric, any final thoughts? We ran a little over, but that's okay. You said it was good. Chat seemed to like it. It looks like people are... what's demonetized base? I know what demonetized is, but I don't know what he's referring to. Maybe we swore or something, but... the gun graphics.
Yeah.
I see. So, Eric, any final thoughts? Anything you want to leave chat with?
Ask yourself, this is what I always leave with everybody. Ask yourself, what part of your environment are you worried about or just don't understand? Whatever that is, give us a call. Let's talk about that.
I love it. And yeah, guys, if you want just to, plug Eric's company, because we do it every morning, but it's Barricade Cyber. This is barricadecyber.com. I'll drop a link in chat. You can go there and, like he said, like literally, this is his calendar. You could literally just be like, doink. You could have a meeting with him tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. As simple as that. Okay, so go to Barricade Cyber. If you care, like if anything we talked about today scares you or you don't have a good answer to the questions Eric was answering, that's where you start. Right? And you can use some of those questions we asked you if you are not a decision maker at your business. You just work there. You could ask, your CISO or whoever and be like, hey, what do we do if we get hit with ransomware? Like, do we have an option? Do we know where our most sensitive data is? Because there's a guy who could help us, So I'll leave it with that. Everybody, thank you. I know it was a little bit of a different stream. This was really, chicken soup for my soul. Having a conversation with Eric, hanging out with you guys. The chat broke, and this actually seemed on brand right here for today's stream. So we had a good one. I appreciate all of you. Join us tomorrow at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for the daily cyber threat briefing. We do it every single weekday morning. Tomorrow is a weekday, so we'll be knocking it out. It is a Friday, which is fantastic. Guys, thank you all very much. Be good. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you guys tomorrow at 8 a.m. Cheers, everybody.